Hi everybody, and it is Founder Wednesday today at the Perfume Society, when we are absolutely delighted to have the gorgeous Amy Christiansen from Saint Jardin here. She will be joining any minute now, I think. But for those of you who don't know, Saint Jardin, here's their discovery set, which we sell on the Perfume Society website, is an amazing brand that is seeking to bring a more sustainable approach to perfume, really in chiming with Amy's own values. And I've known her throughout her whole Saint Jardin journey, and it's a really, really inspiring story, which we're very much looking forward to hearing when she pitches up. It's very hot where we are, so if I get a little shiny, you'll have to forgive me. Here she comes now. I'm just going to let her in. Here we are. And I'll probably have to sit on a cushion because my face will probably disappear. So anyway, hello.
Hi, Joe.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. It's so nice to see your face. And I have to tell you, outside my window, there's loud music right now of the Animals playing songs from the 60s. So I was thinking, you know, this is very appropriate to be talking to you. I'm happy to see your face.
It's lovely to see you too. How are you? Have you been locked down with your sons homeschooling?
All of that, yes, except for I have been. At the moment, I'm abandoning them over their lunch break, so hopefully they'll still be alive in an hour or so. How are you?
Yeah, very good, thank you. Very good. I mean, I'm lucky enough to be by the sea, as you know, so we have a breeze coming through the window on this very hot day. For anybody who's joining from around the world, it's a scorcher in the UK. So Saint Jardin, I think that you really need to take us back to your background even before you went into perfumery, because I think you definitely are the only social worker turned perfume dynamo that I ever met.
Hey, thank you. Yes, so well, first of all, thank you so much for having me on your live. I'm so honored. And as you know, I watched you from afar from before, you know, we had the pleasure of meeting, and you've been such a supporter of our brand. And I am forever grateful to you for your grace and your generosity. And I have so much admiration for the work that you've done in your life. So this is a real pleasure for me. Thank you, Joe. So my background is in social work. I started actually when I was 16 years old, working after school in the nonprofit sector, and then I went on to get a bachelor's and a master's degree in social work. And I did direct practice on the west side of Chicago with low-income children and families in domestic violence shelters and family planning clinics and schools. And I started to realize that me as a social worker, working with them in their home wasn't the best way to be of service. I wanted to work to try and change the system on a macro level so that they had more access to economic opportunity.
Yeah.
And so I then pivoted a bit in my career, and I started working for different foundations. So the foundation, the Robin Hood Foundation in New York, I was a pro bono advisor for President Clinton's foundation. And then before I started Saint Jardin, I was the governing trustee for the Cherie Blair Foundation to support women entrepreneurs in developing countries.
Amazing.
And it was through really that thread where I realized that the next iteration of social change was to harness the power of business and commerce to empower people economically, and not just more traditional philanthropy.
Yeah. Not a handout. Yeah. In the end, people just become dependent on them, and they can't find their own way out of their situations.
Exactly, and it doesn't fundamentally change the system, and that's what I wanted to do, was to fundamentally create different economic opportunities for women who were disenfranchised, And at the same time, I've always loved perfume. I grew up traveling to the Middle East with my grandmother, and I've always been enchanted with the sacred rituals of perfume and essential oils, and the sacred rituals associated with the flower harvest of different perfumes.
Yeah.
I sit on the board of some organizations in the fashion space to make the fashion supply chain more ethical and more transparent. And I thought, if we can do that in fashion, why can't we do that in fragrance? Yeah. And then I also realized that a lot of the raw materials for perfume come from North Africa. And I spent a lot of time in Morocco. And so I thought, well, this is perfect. You know, I can work with women in Morocco, which is a country that's very near and dear to my heart. I can start a perfume line to try and find something, you know, create something on the market, which I couldn't find everywhere I searched. I always say I searched from the souks of Oman to Barney's in LA, and I couldn't find the perfume that I loved. Yeah, and so it all sort of fused together.
Which of course makes it sound terribly easy, but as we know, setting up a perfume house is massively complicated and takes a lot of drive and dynamism and money and, you know, sleepless nights and all of those things. So, you know, you went right in at the top here. You know, you didn't just go to any old perfume house. You found one of the world's greatest perfumers to work with your ingredients, Carlos Benaim, who is, I think you and I both worship him. He's the loveliest, gentlest teddy bear of a man, really. So did you get your ingredients, your supply chain lined up before you went to speak to Carlos?
Well, so this is an interesting story, and it was very serendipitous, actually. So I had started working, and I know you sent in some of the questions that some of your followers had sent in, so this touches on one of their questions. So I had started working with another perfumer and another perfume house, and I ended up, you know, I said to them from the very beginning, the whole purpose of this brand is to be a vehicle for social change. And I want to work with the women in Morocco, with the female flower harvesters in Morocco. So please, can you connect me with the supplier in Morocco that you work with? And of course that took, you know, with any company, it's going to take a lot of time to do that. And I don't think that many companies are interested in having, you know, a woman who comes from a nonprofit background looking at their supply chain. And they very graciously gave me the name of the supplier in Morocco. And one of my very best friends is Moroccan. And I asked her, I said, do you happen to know this company? It's called Les Arômes de Maroc. And she said, oh my goodness, yes. I'm friends with the daughter of the CEO. Let me set up a meeting for you. So I went to Morocco and started working with their manager there, who loved the idea of the project. He used to work for the World Bank, so it really resonated with him. And we started the Beyond Sustainability model, you know, which is to upcycle the waste from the flower harvest and turn that waste into products that the women in Morocco can sell. We established a cooperative for them. And so we were developing the program at the same time that we were developing the perfumes with this particular nose. And I wasn't really happy with the product that I was getting. And so I said to the supplier in Morocco, I said, do you know any good perfumers? You know, it's not really working out with the nose I'm working with. And he said, well, the best in the world is Carlos Benaim. I don't know if he would ever do this, you know, if he would ever take on a project, you know, a new project like this that's small, but he's the best, so we may as well ask. And so he set up a Skype call for Carlos and I won't ever forget it. I was in my childhood bedroom in Chicago. I was home for Christmas a few years ago and had this Skype call with Carlos, and he said, I don't know why, but something in my heart is telling me to do this. And he took on the project. And he's originally of Moroccan descent, which not many people know. So the social impact element really resonated with him.
Yeah.
And then we came to find out later that we were the smallest. He never told us. As you know, he's so gracious. He never told us that we were the smallest order that he'd ever taken on. So, I mean, bless his heart. And as you know, I mean, he's really, I feel like when you interact with him, you're in a black and white movie. You know, he's so, he's from another era.
Yeah, he's a perfect gentleman, you know, a perfect gentleman. But I think, you know, there's a great willingness that we see now. Perfumers want to feel that they can make a difference through their work above and beyond simply making us feel great by wearing perfume. And so the idea of working with sustainable ingredients and actually bringing about social change through perfume is something I think that a lot of them are very keen to get involved in. But, you know, this was a few years ago. This was before people started talking about sustainable luxury. So you know, you were the first person, I will say, that had crossed my hang on, hand down. Okay, so we're getting bounce back. Apparently we have to both turn the volume down on our phone.
Okay.
So,
Well,
okay, I have an assistant who has a placard who's just come in. That's better. I can hear it already. It's better. Yeah. Okay.
I'm glad that someone knew how to solve the problem.
Me
so
too.
Thank you to, if that's Hetty, say thank you to her.
Thank you. I just can't quite hear you now, so I'm just going to turn it up a tiny bit more. But so yeah, so you really kind of pioneered that, and you know, I mean, you must be pleased by the fact that quite a bit of the industry now is banging the drum about wanting to be more sustainable. You know, you're not the kind of person who would just want to own that for herself.
No, in fact, you know, a lot of, I always say with Sana Jardin, I don't know, you know, it's a startup, so we don't know where the business will lead us, but what I want to leave as an impact, whatever it is the thought and the concept that if we're creative with our use of waste, we can help people at the base of the supply chain, and we can build more humanitarian values into the supply chain and use luxury business to create social good. So yes, no, I mean, I think that this model can be used in any industry, in any vertical, and absolutely, you know, I don't have ownership over over this concept. I hope that this is a concept that is replicated many, many, many times over.
Absolutely. And so just tell us, the women, obviously, they harvest the orange blossom. They're amazingly colorfully dressed Berber women. We've seen some photos of them. You can see them on the Perfume Society website. But tell us what happens after the harvest. So they pick it, and then what's next step?
So, well, there's a couple things. So there were two problems that we were trying to solve for. So one is, if you can envision that they live in a rural, very, very small community, hours outside of Casablanca and Morocco, and they only have access to seasonal work. So only 2 or 3 times a year during the orange blossom harvest and the rose harvest and the jasmine harvest. So when they're doing that, when they're harvesting the flowers, you know, they're working very hard. They chant when they're harvesting the flowers, and then those flowers go into a distillation machine that's on the premises. And then out of that comes orange blossom water, or mazaher, and scented candle wax, which is what they then sell. And those are the products that they sell. But the rest of the time, you know, they don't have access to employment, and they don't really have, they have very limited job skills.
Yeah.
So we were trying to solve for the problem of that, to give them more consistent income, train them to be micro entrepreneurs, and then also help with waste reduction. So during the rest of the year, they are involved in a lot of trade shows in Morocco. They sell their products at trade shows all around the country.
What products are they?
So it's orange blossom water. They have their own brand of orange blossom water. The name, we established the cooperative for them in partnership with our nonprofit partner, which is called Nest. And so the women have their own, they came up with their own name. We help them with their branding. They're self-governing. And they have an office in the neighborhood. And
wow.
so they bottle and label the orange. They label the orange blossom water, and then they put the wax into the containers and label those containers, and then they go to trade shows around smaller like trunk shows around Casablanca, Marrakesh, Rabat, and sell them. And then actually one of the things that I know my team thinks, this is the thing that I'm most excited about, I think right now, is as a result of COVID, obviously a lot of people need masks. And so we've retrained them, even during challenging circumstances with COVID, they learned how to sew the masks, and we've been able to retrain them to do that. We have some sewing machines that are coming to them as soon as the lockdown lifts. We have upcycled fabric that's coming to them. And so this will be an additional source of revenue for them.
Fantastic. And was that a brainwave that you had, or, where did that come from?
Well, so we do it in part. So a lot of our work is hand in hand with this organization called Nest in New York, which typically works in fashion. And with artisans, global artisans, and I'm on their board. And so I knew that they were doing this for a lot of their garment workers in developing countries. And I thought, again, if they can do that with their garment workers in India, we can do that with our ladies in Morocco. So it was a collaboration.
And over and above the orange blossom, do you brief Carlos to use sustainably sourced fragrance ingredients where possible?
Absolutely. So, Carlos, of course, as you know, he's a walking legend. But I think what was also appealing about working with IFF, the company for which he's a master perfumer, is that they're known to source their ingredients sustainably. So they have,
and they have access to LMR Naturals ingredients as well. So exactly.
And so a lot of our ingredients are from the LMR Naturals.
And what do you think is, it goes beyond what's in the bottle though, because you've looked at the sustainability of the packaging as well. So do you want to talk a little bit about that aspect of it?
Yes. So that
way, you're obsessed with the cap.
Sorry?
You're obsessed with the cap.
Oh, well, the cap, I have to tell you, is probably one of the things that's on its way out. Because because it's plastic. And so and as wonderful as it is to be able to hear that satisfying click, we're always trying to evolve and improve and become more sustainable and eco-friendly in our packaging. So
your son is just joined.
Usually, if I'm on one, he writes really funny comments. So I'm glad that he's on his best behavior. Oh yeah. And then our thing is that I need to wink if I notice him. So yes, Aiden,
we both notice you, Aiden.
And actually, Joe, I told him who I was talking to today, and I'm so inspired by your background with green and blacks, and so I told him that, and I think that he wants your autograph. He's so excited to know about you.
You can have my autograph. You can have my autograph. I have my autograph box from you actually here that you gave me. So I'll exchange. I will autograph some green and black for him, but I can't send it out right now because it's too hot. You can't. Chocolate is really bad with heat. So when it cools down a little bit, tell Aiden that he will get some chocolate signed by me.
You're so kind. You're so sweet. He will love that. Thank you. Thank you.
But anyway, back to packaging, back to boxes and caps and things. So what do you think you'll replace the cap with?
So we're researching that right now. We're working on a cap that's made out of, I have my notes in front of me because it's really quite technical, all these things. So we're working on the cap being made out of upcycled, biodegradable, and bioplastic materials. And then we've made other improvements. So for example, we started off using plastic on our labels. Now we use only paper. We use only soy-based ink. Our blotters have been printed on something called crushed paper, which contains 40% post-consumer recycled corn and is produced with 100% green energy and helps reduce the carbon footprint by 20%. So that's the crushed, so that's the blotter paper. We also, something that I like is the foam chips that we use in all of the shipments. They're 100% biodegradable and they're fully compostable. And I know that one of the questions that we had received was, what can people do to encourage brands to be more sustainable?
Absolutely.
And obviously one is you have the power to vote with your wallet, so to buy sustainable brands. The other is, of course, to support them on your social media and introduce your friends to them. But equally, we've changed some of our packaging as a response to our clients. In the very beginning, people wrote in and said, we love what you're doing, we love your ethos, but I received this box and it was really big and it's a waste. It's wasteful. And so, we work very hard to have our packaging come so that there's no waste in the packaging. It's not too big. Our glass is from 30% recycled glass. Our boxes
and of course,
are recyclable.
The great thing is that the packaging industry is responding to this demand from companies like yours and actually upping their game all the time. I mean, I had ordered some green Jiffy bags because now you can get green Jiffy bags, and the company that supplied them sent me this whole kind of goodie bag of all the other eco-friendly packaging that they now offer. So it's a very quick. They really want to kind of service as many customers as possible, and so the more that companies like yours and ours make a noise about these things, the faster they will respond. It's the market that changes things very, very effectively, I think.
I totally agree, and clever that they did that.
Yeah, really smart, really smart.
We use a tissue paper called No Issue Tissue, which is recycled in soy-based ink. I don't know if you know No Issue Tissue.
No, I like that.
And then it's a London company, and then we're starting to work with, we haven't executed anything yet, but I think it's such a clever idea with biodegradable material it's a company that was started by university students here in London, and you can use them for like your visual merchandising, and it's all natural biodegradable material. But you're right, if I was to start another business, which I am never going to again, I would do something in packaging.
Yeah. And signage, signage as well. It's anyway, we won't even go there. So what should consumers be looking for in eco and sustainable fragrances? I mean, customers really have to drill down into what companies are saying about their ingredients, don't they?
Well, I think the ingredients are very tricky. And even for us, when we started off, so we launched in 2017 and we were natural leaning. But there's still more that we can do. So we actually ended up reformulating. So we were free of parabens, phthalates, artificial colorants, formaldehydes. But now in our reformulation, again, listening really to what the consumers want, now we have, and I have to you reference my notes because it's a lot of chemicals. So now we're free of BHT,
Yeah.
polycyclic musks, toluene, styrene, um, and our products will be vegan soon. So I think, I think I personally really like Credo in the United States because I
Uh-huh.
think that they have done a great job, and actually we worked with Credo to do our
And
reformulations.
just to fill anybody in who doesn't know, Credo is a chain. It's kind of like Space NK, but it's all green and eco-friendly products.
Mm-hmm. Because the problem is, Joe, is that there aren't really any government standards or requirements as to what's labeled
Yeah.
clean. So it's fallen really on the retailers. And Credo, I think, they're known for their advocacy work in this space. Sephora Clean, I think, is doing a great job with their
Mm-hmm.
curation of clean fragrances. And then I think, looking for the Leaping Bunny certificate, the vegan certificate, the
Yeah.
free from different chemicals is important. And observing what elements of their packaging is recycled,
Yeah.
and also
And also
questioning
being,
their sourcing.
but also being sure to recycle it themselves when they get it.
Yeah.
I mean, there is a bit of a disconnect. I think we're so used to recycling our stuff in the kitchen that the bathroom and the bedroom don't necessarily have those kind of separation facilities, and so stuff ends up in the bin that actually could go in the recycling bin. Um, there was a little bit of concern from one reader who said, do your products contain animal ingredients? So is Nubian musk made with real animal musk? I think we can reassure that person, but you do that for me.
So, well, it's a very fair question. When we first launched, Nubian musk did have some animal musk, and we took that out. So now we have no animal derived products in any of our fragrances.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I think that, brands like yours, brands like Green and Black, it is a journey. It's a
Yeah.
journey of 1,000 steps. And you're going, you want to be going in the right direction. But I think it's unrealistic for companies to be perfect overnight. And I always think actually the perfect is the enemy of the good. I think one of the reasons that a lot of brands don't talk about what they're doing is because, and I love the fact that you describe what Sana Jardin is on as a journey, because a lot of companies are worried that unless they're perfect, they can't talk about any of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's,
Yeah.
and I'm just going to try the volume again because I'm still getting a little bit of feedback here, and Esty will be
That
up.
might be me because I just turned up my volume a little bit so I could hear you better.
I
Let's see.
think,
I think
yeah.
I see Hetty writing in.
I think that was the answer. So how does it work with Carlos? I mean, he's based in New York. Are you in London at the moment? Are you locked down in London, or are you locked down in the States?
I'm locked out in London. Yes, locked out in London. So I'm enjoying the same glorious weather that you are. So with Carlos, we have met a few times in person in New York and in London. And when we first started working together, we had a couple of Skype calls, so I would describe to him what I wanted. And because he grew up in Morocco, is that our understanding of scent was, well, I can't say our understanding of scent was similar because obviously his understanding is much more sophisticated than mine, but we both were attracted to the same types of scents. And so it was easy to communicate to him about what I wanted. And so then I get asked about this process a lot. So then the next step is to write a brief. And in that brief, it's always, we talk about the price per kilo of the essential oils. We talk about who the customer is. We talk about what we want the scent to smell like, if it's for day or evening. And then I write usually sort of like some type of, almost like a little bit of a story, you know, something descriptive. Like I picture who the customer is and the journey that they'll be on, or if they'll be wearing it out at night, or where they'll be wearing the perfume, or what type of person they are. And then obviously a key element of the brief is that at least one ingredient is sourced from this distributor in Morocco. Yeah. And so then Carlos will read the brief. He'll work his magic. I've been to his lab one time in New York only, and it was so, I mean, I had goosebumps being there. Because as you've probably been, you know, there's all of these bottles, and it's alchemy at the end of the day. It's alchemy. So to be able to be a part of that process and sort of play around like with witches' potions was really fun. and then he'll send, you know, his team will send us submissions. I have one here because we're working on a rose. I know that was
new one.
Yeah, I know that was one of the questions that had come in. So this is what, you know, a little IFF submission looks like. And then our whole team will smell it. And we, you know, we spray it all over everybody. Our office is, I mean, now we're not going to the office, but usually, you know, we've got it arms, legs, everywhere. I've got it on my son's arms and legs. And then we write back, well, we think that it should have more warmth, we think that it should be more floral, and then it's usually a process of maybe 2 or 3 submissions until we decide on something. And then obviously within the brief, it's also, you know, they can't use certain ingredients, and then we have the approved product.
And how's that process? I mean, you've got a sample there. When did that come in? Has that process changed at all during lockdown?
So we had, before lockdown, we had requested 4 new perfumes from them. Wow. So they have been able to, I cannot say enough good things about IFF. They're so professional. They're so helpful. They're so human to work with. And so they were able, you know, everyone on their team was able to work remotely and send us these submissions. So I mean, it was a little bit delayed, but no, it was kind of like business as usual. Yeah, for me. I don't know about an IFF, but
I guess it depends. I mean, we've spoken to perfumers who've been working remotely and sending their formulations to the lab, having somebody in the lab blend it for them, and then having to send it back to them so they can smell it and, you know, work on the modifications, etc. So it's definitely been a more drawn out process for a lot of perfumers, I think. And also, you know, some of the feedback that we've had is that it's really the stress of just getting through the day and the lack of human contact has somehow dimmed the creative spirit. You know, they're all looking forward to having that human spark again, because some of them have found it quite sort of, I guess, you know, dulling of the senses in a way. I suppose if you're working with your senses, it can be quite easy to be divorced from them during a time like this, when you're kind of living here, you know. You're living in your head. So
I never thought about that. That's really interesting that where we're all living in our cocoon. And I think on some level, you know, it'll be so interesting to see if there's what amount of trauma that we're living through right now that we're not even really aware of. And when you're in that mode, you're really just in survival mode, and then your senses are dulled. So thank you for bringing that up, because that hadn't occurred to me that perfumers would experience that, or artists, let's say, you know, that's really interesting.
Yeah, they're artists. I mean, the very clever creative Geza Schön, who is the creator of Eccentric Molecules. You know, he said he was just a bit depressed and he found it hard to work. And Francis Courgeon, again, you know, has I think experienced some difficulty. So that is completely normal, I think. So you guys are all working in your own homes, and do you think you'll go back to being in an office together?
So I think, so that's sort of the $1 million question. I think I think, and you know, I talk to, like I'm sure you do too, a lot of founders, and so we're all comparing notes. I think certainly it will be flexi working
Yeah.
for the foreseeable future. We have one staff member who comes in now to the office once or twice a week, probably just because she finds it easier to focus when she's at the office.
Yeah.
Our office is small, and we have about 6 people kind of who are in and out at different times. I would like to keep it because I think it's nice to have a home, you know, and I think as much as I'm amazed at human resiliency that we've all been able to really adapt and change on a dime and work
Overnight.
from home. Yeah, I do think that there's a great social benefit to interactions in person, and also just brainstorming. You know, right now I think we're all being sort of reactive, but to be proactive, I feel like you need to be together. So
we have the same. It's like we actually all get our work done more quickly and more efficiently without distractions. But coming up with new ideas and things is very hard. You know, Zoom just filters all of that out somehow. It's, you know, but how else do you think? I mean, do you think it's a time when luxury and perfumery is going to reinvent itself moving forward?
Well, you know, if you had asked me this before COVID, I would have said absolutely. I think that, you know, the beauty industry certainly is moving in a positive direction in terms of sustainable sourcing, sustainable packaging. I think, you know, if you look at Firmenich and IFF, you know, they're very well known for sourcing their ingredients ethically. So I think, yes, I think COVID, like so many other things, has actually accelerated trends that were emerging. And so, in my humble opinion, I think that we will see, you know, much more sustainable brands emerging, but also brands looking to become more sustainable, because I think it's going to be harder to compete in this space if you don't have those elements.
Yeah, absolutely. I think people are going to be, I genuinely, I don't think it's naivety. I genuinely think people are going to be asking more questions, and they're going to be looking for brands that have, during this time or predating this time, shown a sense of caring about people or the environment. You know, I think that what this has all done is it's reminded us to care.
I fully agree, and I think that it, you know, it started with sustainable ingredients, but I think it's going to move towards, you know, more. I look to fashion, you know, and an even greater focus on the humanitarian element of these low-income workers who are producing our products. And then I also look from a commercial perspective. You know, I'm American, so in many ways my reference point is the States, but as you would know, Credo just did a partnership with Ulta in the U.S., which Ulta has, I think, you know, 1,000 or 1,500 stores. So I think the consumers are driving it, and the retailers are going to start to require it.
Absolutely. No, I think so. I mean, you referenced America.
And how are you, Joe? How is everything going?
I think the Perfume Society is because of hygiene reasons. You know, this idea that when someone picks up a bottle, somebody has to physically clean it afterwards before the next customer. And so we've really become this kind of go-to for people who want to try fragrance before they buy. And of course, as you know, people are concerned about money, they're concerned about their, you know, not wasting money. They more than ever want to smell things before they splash out on them. But, you know, we're pretty much the only place you can do that at the moment. So we've been very, very busy. Luckily, our warehouse stayed open, having threatened to close. Well, it did close for 48 hours, and I spent 48 hours under my desk going, oh no, what are we going to do? And then happily, they found a way to make it safe to work. So we were back on track. And we've been really, really busy. You know, it's a very exciting time. And I think the other thing that has happened is that for us, you know, websites like ours, which have authority and a huge amount of information, as we move forward, we're returning to the so that the idea that it's enough just to a pretty bottle of perfume or a cup look or something to say, I think today. To be, but I mean, at the same time, you know, we once had an issue of the magazine called of the scented letter called "The Nose Has to Travel," and it was a reference to this statement by Diana Vreeland, the American Vogue and Bazaar editor, who said the eye has to travel. But actually, if you work in this world, the nose has to travel. You have to be inspired by going places and seeing people. And I was going to ask you about one of the questions from one of the readers was, you've been very inspired by some of the places that you've been over the years. And what is your favorite scent memory from your travels?
Thank you for asking that. And thank you for sharing with me how everything is going at the Perfume Society. It's very interesting to note how busy you've been with these discovery sets. Yeah, that's great news, and it makes perfect sense. And I think, you know, as we all know, retail is changing, and I think people will be shopping online permanently more.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. People are going to be sourcing information from websites because, my goodness, everything is changing so fast.
Yeah.
You know, there has to be that fluidity and that agility to be able to update information. So good for you. So gosh, my favorite scent as it relates to my travels is probably really Orange Blossom. That was, it was that scent that I couldn't find one that I liked on the market. And I mean, I really scoured planet Earth to find one that smelled very natural and smelled like the orange blossom I would smell in the south of France or Morocco, or I love Mazaher. I love the scent of that, you know, the white coffee. So it's the dew of the orange blossom water mixed with hot water, and it's like a tea. And I could never find it. So my answer for that would be Orange Blossom. I find it very transporting, and that was really the cornerstone of the line. That was the first fragrance I wrote the brief for. That was one of the reasons I started the brand, and I named it, as you know, Joe, I named it after my two sons, Berber Blonde, because they're a quarter Berber and they're blonde. So yeah, that's.
And what that little bottle that you showed us, can you give us a little sneaky peek in terms of what we can expect smell-wise from that bottle?
Of course. So this is a rose for people who don't like rose.
Yeah. But there are so many. Let me tell you, we hear this all the time.
Yes, and you know, we've been asked, again, sort of going back to your question about how can people support sustainable brands, you know, it comes back to a lot of the people in our community had wanted a rose, and I'm personally not a rose person, and so I thought, okay, well, we need to find a rose that is appealing and different, and warm and sexy and exotic and not sort of traditional and prim and proper. And so that's what this rose is. And then there's also, you know, so much. I mean, it symbolizes unity and faith, and has been used in all different religions as a symbol of unity and faith and love. And I think that that is certainly something that our world needs right now. So we haven't named it yet. We have lots of calls, you know, going around trying to figure out the name, but we haven't named it yet. I'm losing you a little bit, Joe. I can't hear you. I think you were talking about names and green and black, and I read your book when you were trying to find the name. Is that what you were talking about? That was. I can't. I can hear you a little bit now. Oh, and I see somebody just wrote in this. Yeah. Well, I think what I heard you say was with green and black that you spent a lot of time trying to find four that you're going to bring out or that you're working on at the moment. So the so the rose vanilla, which is the vanilla is inspired by these rocks that I found in Morocco, these scented sort of like lava stones. That one we're putting a lot of effort into. Actually, we have a call with Carlos tomorrow on that because we're not quite getting it right yet. And then one is a very light vetiver, almost like a cologne, that's very unisex. And then the other is a very light orange blossom that's like a cologne. Like that. And of course, I think some. Yes, so we have candles. I actually have one here. We have candles. Forgive me if I'm not answering every question or responding to everything because I'm having a hard time hearing you. But our candles, yes, so our candles, that was really a challenge. We have them in Tiger by Her Side, which is our amber, Jaipur Chant, which is like our tuberose, and Sandalwood Temple, so our sandalwood. And wait, I'm just pausing. Did I get that right? Jaipur Chant, Tiger by Her Side. Sorry, not Sandalwood Temple. Revolution de la Fleur. Sandalwood
Okay,
Temple
yes.
and Berber Blonde are coming out shortly.
Okay.
And so the challenge with that was we really struggled. We struggled for 2 years to make a candle that was paraffin free, but that also had a very strong smell and,
Yes.
scented the room. And that we had a lot of back and forth in terms of submissions on, and because as a business we felt like we needed to be really true to our mission of being as natural leaning as possible. So it's a lead-free wick, it's vegetable wax, it is paraffin free, and there's a very large, there's a lot of oil in it to make it smell strong. But
Yeah.
I felt bad for IFF because we sent a lot of the submissions back because they just, even if it smelled good, it didn't scent up a room without paraffin. So that was hard.
Yeah. But I think they're used to that, you know, much more challenging than a fragrance.
Yes, yes. And I think the paraffin part for us was hard because we did actually in the beginning, some of the samples were paraffin and they were good and they were beautiful, but we felt like as a brand we had to be true to the core values of our brand. So in our new product development pipeline, we have in it was, you know, a hand wash, a body lotion, a shower gel, and of course, because of COVID, we've moved that up. So, God, I don't know when they're going to launch. It could be early next year. There's so many factors that go into it, but that is now high up in our pipeline. And in terms of new products, it's number one. And then in terms of different sizes and new products, because I think that was one of the questions, the next thing is a little 10 ml, you know, little roller ball.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
But,
I think we might need to wrap up just because the signal is bad today. I don't know why the signal is bad, but thank you so much for
well, you were instrumental in it, Joe. You held my hand from the very beginning, so thank you.
It's a project close to